The lights are shining brightly as we get ready for round 14 of the Race Department Formula 1 World Championship on the PlayStation 4. We have just started qualifying for the Singapore Grand Prix. 11 minutes remaining. Jamie Mayers alongside Michael Fleming as per usual. I'd like to welcome everybody along as everybody's now making their way out onto the pit lane, and we start off with the breaking news that happened last week shortly after the Italian Grand Prix, and that is our Season 8 champion, Mr. Mikey Wolford, is no more in the championship. Retiring from the season. He's actually going to be joining us in the commentary box at some point this season, providing some sort of analysis and stuff. But, it's a shame to see him no longer racing with us this season. Hopefully he will be back next year when he gets himself some decent hardware. He isn't having to use half of Argos.
Yeah, it's second season in a row where we've lost a driver just after the Italian Grand Prix. So I decided, like myself last season, not to bother with the Asian leg. Or I wouldn't put it like that. Obviously, he has been struggling with his setup since moving, so unfortunate to see him out of the driver's seat, but he will be, I'm sure, a brilliant addition to our media coverage.
Yep, I'm of course looking forward to that, but he's off on a business meeting, inverted commas. He's getting drunk, I think.
Yeah.
As per usual. Hopefully he is watching if he is able to. Not quite sure who to follow in a minute. I shall follow Phantom Fruit Twist for a bit, I think. A few weak races for him, actually. His last race finish was obviously the 7th place in Italy and then a 14th place in Spa. So his results have sort of fallen off a little bit. He'll be able to
they have
take
gone off the rails. His qualifying performance in Canada was probably the highlight of the season for him. Getting on the front row there, but unfortunately he wasn't able to turn that into a decent enough result really, and since then has just got caught up in all sorts of drama, mainly on the sort of first laps of the race. So hopefully he can stop that run now, but it being Singapore, it's quite easy to get caught up in that mid-pack.
Indeed it is. Good to see you, Joseph. Thanks for joining us. As Guy sets the fastest lap so far of a 38.8, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be very easily beaten. There you go. Our timing screen is going to look like a pinball machine, as Martin Brundle would say. As Ben and then Harry has just gone fastest, and then Mitchell's followed that up with a 37.5. Very good lap as Troy aborts. So let's find Sean number 1. So he's just coming off the bridge and going on to the second bridge. Alex goes second fastest on a 37.7. So the times, at least up front, are quite close.
Yep, we are just sort of waiting with bated breath now for the current leader of the championship to set his lap time. He has looked electric around this circuit in practice leading up to this, and to be honest, even on the last game, it was a really strong track for Sean. He goes through the final 2 corners. Now, will he go to the top of the timesheet? He extends that a little bit, and indeed, his time has been invalidated. So could we be in for another bottle job in qualifying from Sean?
I mean, I don't want to wish that upon anybody around this circuit, but I think I will on this occasion, because that'll give us some fantastic entertainment. We've got Drew in the pit still. We've got Troy coming out for a second attempt after he aborted his first run. Obviously, he must have got an invalidation. And we've got JC in the other Mercedes, just going through the new chicane brought a couple of seasons ago to go over the bridge.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the reason for that change to the circuit was. I want to say it just takes them on the sort of the right-hand side of the bridge as opposed to the left. It opens up that sort of section of that right-left chicane a little bit more, but I'm not entirely sure as to why that change was made. But even so, James will be looking to continue on a run of solid results this season. I think he's pace-wise been
oh dear,
superb. He hasn't managed to keep it out the wall there, unfortunately.
Oh dear. Commentator's curse.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have said anything, but he does have a fastest lap to his name this season, which is fairly impressive considering he's normally back-end point sort of pace.
Yeah, I think they made the change to the track there just because they wanted to open up the hairpin at the end of it. To try and make it some sort of an overtaking place, but it didn't really work. As Sean's a bit naughty there in cutting across the entry line, but of course our organisers haven't really decided to bother with clarifying whether or not people have to abide by it or not, so drivers are obviously going to cut across it every now and then, I guess. But back to the circuit changes, we've got the Singapore Sling as well. That was a pretty interesting corner that was removed for a 90-degree left-hander. Again, I think it was for safety reasons because people were bouncing off the middle curb into the barriers, but it takes a bit of challenge out of the track, if you ask me.
Yeah, they put really quite high sausage curves. I think I remember the edge in Sutil in sort of 2010. Bouncing over those curbs and straight into the wall in front of the hotel. So it was a bit of a challenge just to thread the car through. But I mean, beyond it looking quite nice as a little 3 apex chicane, there wasn't really much to it. And I quite like that left-hander now. So I was a fan of that change when they made it.
As we say that, we've got Troy just going through that corner now. He's of course on his second run after aborting his first. I think Sean will be venturing out as well, so as soon as he comes out we'll follow him. I do need to get the names of the bridges actually, because I know they feature quite a lot, but I have no idea which one's which, if I'm perfectly honest.
Wonder what sort of response we're going to see from Sean. Frederick has decided that it's he's called it a day. But yeah, Sean he does put himself in these positions time and time again. We saw it in Australia, first race this season. I think invalidated both of his lap times, and then ended up not having to start from the back and only getting up to P9 in the end. We saw it from him in Monaco last season. When it comes to tracks where he's confident that he has really fantastic pace, but just can't get it together in qualifying and leaves himself in a huge uphill battle in the race. Gatis surprisingly ends his
He's
session
in
as
the
well.
pit lane, I think.
Yeah, so a minute and a half left. We are just about heating up for everyone's final run.
I would just like to point out that Troy invalidated that lap as well. So it looks like he's going to be starting at least 15th. Of course, if Sean actually gets a lap time in and James gets a lap time in, it will be last row of the grid, so he's probably hoping that Sean invalidates again. Who shall we watch now? Let's find Sean. Right, Sean's about to start his lap now, so let's ride on board with him and take him for a tour around the base circuit.
Yep, so he's gone into the first sort of left, right, left section, keeping all four wheels within the track limits. That's got to be his priority. As he dips down into the right-hander here, so it's a long right-hander really. You've just got to get the turning point absolutely perfect to clip the apex and get the run down this back straight. Hard braking for the left-hander here. You can be quite generous with how much curb you take, and he has done. He's kicked out the exit, kicked out the rear of the car and exit there. Might have cost him a little bit of time as he goes through the sweeping left-hander, and now down the back straight there is Troy in the wall. His session is completely over. This was the Singapore Sling. It's now a lovely sweeping fourth gear left-hander as he gets it down across the bridge. Again, he's just sideways, right on the limit of adhesion as he comes down into this hairpin and accelerates away down this short straight. As he goes into the final sector. Not really sure how a 27.7 middle stacks up, but it looks fairly clean so far. Ben pops up into second, but immediately displaced by Harry as Sean goes through this twiddly section. This is probably the hardest corner on the track. So it's like threading a needle. If you get it wrong, it goes really wrong. And now he can start to relax. Just about avoid the wall. You only get knocked off by Sean. It's been a half decent lap.
Oh, what a lap! 36.6 from Sean to go 0.6 of a second faster than anyone else. Mitchell crosses the line on 36.9. So, as per usual, our two championship protagonists are a crop above the rest. And yeah, they were the only men in the 36s. 0.3 to the good for Sean. I just want to see if anyone else is on some form of lap. No, Luke is coming into the pits with parts of his front wing missing. So that's your end of qualifying. Times were decently close up until the point where Mitchell and Sean decided to just go back to the future. We do have a bit of interestingness as we've got Troy right down the back of the field, starting 17th of 18 drivers here this evening. You've got Frederick in the Toro Rosso in 18th with no time set. It'll also be good to see where Gatis puts himself. Starts 9th on the grid, but we've seen he's had some pretty decent races up until last week, I think.
Well, I mean, last week he was struggling with perhaps a little bit too much downforce on the car. I think he did well considering. But yeah, he constantly pops up and has been surprising us this season, and fully deserves his third place in the championship. So we'll be hoping to make some progress from the 5th row of the grid.
Here we go, the countdown has begun. 25 seconds before this race gets underway. A nice 301 meter dash from the pole position to turn number 1. Will we see a Max Verstappen, Kimi Räikkönen, Sebastian Vettel love fest down into turn 1? We're about to find out. And away we go. Good start from one of the Saubers in the background. We've got Mitchell down the inside of Sean into turn 1. He's going side by side and wheel banging with Sean through turns 1, 2 and 3. But Mitchell just looks like he's wrestled that position away and takes the lead as they go into turn number 4. Alex having a look down the inside of Sean as well. We've got one of the Renaults tagging the wall in the background but managing to get through safely, and we're going side by side further down the pack. It's a front wing.
Lots of front wing coming off there. I'm not sure who that was. Could have been Guy's. But it looks like he's got it fully intact.
Gatis in a little bit of strife there. He's lost 2 positions. He's just made another one back. So he's back up to 11th position. We've got Charlie attacking in the Ferrari. Good to see him putting in some decent attacking performances. He's not really been at his best this season. As Luke having a go down the inside of Charlie as I say that. Tags his rear end, but they both managed to come out unscathed.
Gatis
we've got some. Who's that down the escape road? That's Gatis.
Gatis trying to go down
and
the inside
Charlie.
of Abdul.
The pair of them in the same bit of runoff area. Charlie manages to recover first. No damage to his car. Gatis, I think there's some damage to the front wing. Got Andrea attacking the back of James. Troy up to 14th. So he's making some slow progress. We shall keep an eye on that as the field starts to spread out a little bit. Although Guy is attacking Jerry round the outside into turn 1. Can't quite pull it off.
Yeah, it's a real shame for Charlie that he was so aggressive and just brilliant on the brakes into turn 1. Gained about 3 positions. But obviously outbraking himself into turn 14 has really ruined that start to the race. But it does look like it was Jerry that sustained the big front wing damage on that first lap, going down into turn 6. And Guy is now trying to pinch him. That's down into turn 7 there. So hopefully that won't ruin Jerry's race. But it is a long lap here, and the front downforce is pretty vital.
Yeah, these two knocking spots off each other as Gatis has just passed Charlie. I think Charlie's run wide. Jerry's just run wide, and Guy's going to take advantage of that and takes the 7th position. That's going to put Jerry under attack from Gerard, who's going to want to get through sooner rather than later before he loses the back of Guy. Guy already starting to pull a few car lengths in front. We've got Drew attacking Ben for 5th. We've got Troy up to 13th now. So he's making decent progress. Then we've got Harry in 4th, Alex, and then your top 2. And Jerry, I think, has put it in the barriers. Yes, he has. Going under the tunnel. Really gets James crashing into the back of him. So he'll be straight into the pit lane.
Andrea going down the inside of Abdul into turn 1. And there was a bit of contact. Still side by side, but Andrea's got moved up.
He has indeed, and here comes Luke trying to pick up some of the pieces. He'll be having a look down into turn 6, I'm sure. I've got to say, turn 4's a really tricky corner. You've got to make sure you don't slap the outside barrier. Very easy to either bounce off of that into the inside barrier or just knock a wheel straight off the car.
Jerry exiting the pits is a bit of a sorry sight, unfortunately. One we've seen way too many times this season. Again showing good pace, but again his race ending due to damage, or any chance of points ending due to damage on the first lap. One thing I would say is that Sean has about 4.5 laps of fuel in hand. He's Gatis takes 14th place there. Whereas Mitchell has about a lap and a half of fuel extra. So carrying 3 laps less fuel than Sean. That's going to help him at this stage of the race where his car will be slightly lighter. That does mean he'll have to be running in the lead mix a little bit more, which probably means that, you know, it was vital for him to get in front of Sean so that he can then dictate the pace and save fuel as he wishes. But he'll have a monster job trying to keep Sean behind him for 31 laps.
Yeah, this is, remember, the longest race of the season as Mitchell sets the fastest lap of the race. So, do tuck yourselves in. As we've got Luke going around the outside of... oh, Troy must have run... No, Brown must have run wide, because all of a sudden Troy's up to 10th. So I think Luke and Abdul must have had some sort of contact, and that's given Troy the position. And let's see how quickly he can make his way through the field. Although Luke with the DRS having a look round the outside into turn 6 probably isn't going to get it done, and he's got to watch out for Abdul, who's going to attack. And Mitchell, oh dear, he's given himself a penalty. So our race leader with a 3-second time penalty. That's just handed the initiative to Shaw. Yeah,
it's not normal that Mitchell's the first one to blink in terms of qualifying penalties, as Abdul really putting up a fight with Thomas there in the Toro Rosso, despite having only half the front wing. But Thomas gets the place and up into 12th, and now can focus his efforts on chasing down fellow super soft runner Luke in 11th.
Quite a nice mix of tyre strategies we've got going on at the moment. Top 8 on the Ultra Soft. We've got Andrea in 9th on the Super Soft, Troy on the Ultra Soft, a few more Super Softs, and then we've got a soft on Jerry's car. I'm not sure he'll be able to get to the end of the race on that tyre, but I think, knowing Jerry, he's going to try to, as Abdul finally calls it quits with that front wing and pits for a new one.
Yeah, I think star of the race so far has to be Andrea, sitting there in 9th. He's the highest super soft runner, and it's his first start in about 5 races. Yet to score a point this season, but currently sitting pretty there in 9th place, and is doing a really solid job on that shade harder tyre.
He is indeed. It's good to see. It is good to see on racetracks like this and Monaco and some of the others, where some of the drivers where you don't see feature actually somehow put things together and actually make a name for themselves. I mean, we've seen it with Jerry a few times this season, where he's not really been that quick, but then all of a sudden he'll just put himself right in the middle of the pack. Or I think it was China, where he put himself like in 3rd or 4th for a lot of the first stint. So yeah, it is good to see some of the floundering guys, so to speak, up at the front. Sean stalking the back of Mitchell. He doesn't really need to, because like we said, Mitchell is 3 seconds behind in terms of track time, as we've got yellows in sector 2 somewhere, but they're quickly gone.
I think it's Charlie through in a straight line at the moment and has lost quite a bit of front wing there, so his race has gone from bad to worse fairly quickly. Sean smacks the outside wall at turn 5 with his left rear tyre. That's right on the edge, no damage done though.
Very, very lucky.
Yeah, it was quite a big clout, but you won't get any damage from that on this game.
Now got yellows in sector 3. Is that Jerry? Yep, Jerry's done exactly what he did earlier on in the race and just locked up going into the tunnel. But luckily this time he just managed to get it down the escape road and avoid any damage. He's reversed back into the race and he's back on course. He's currently down in 17th position. Poor Charlie, 33.9 seconds behind him as Gatis makes the move for 12th place down into the old Singapore sling. And just as I mentioned, Charlie, he puts it in the barrier and retires the car in the tunnel section. He's obviously, well, both of the front wheels are attached, as are the rear ones, so tad confused. Maybe
yeah,
he's just
sometimes if you
decided
do
to
knock it a
rage
bit
quit.
hard, if you do knock it a bit hard, it'll just it'll retire the car. And I think if he had rage quit, his ghost car would have backed up and tried to sort itself out. So I think he has just rolled it into the wall there, and it's game over for him, unfortunately. Back at the front, same old story. Two Dutchmen going at it again, first and second.
Oh, Mitchell, please! Laying a streak down on the tarmac, just coming out of that corner. But Sean can't do anything with it, even with the DRS. He's probably just sitting back at the moment, knowing full well that Mitchell has that penalty.
Gerard round the outside of Guy into turn 7. That was really impressive from the Haas driver as he moves up into 7th position.
We've got a pretty nice scrap now going on for 4th position. We've got Harry, Ben and Drew all within a duvet cover of each other. And it is good to see the different types of cars all fighting each other. We've got a Renault, a Sauber and a Red Bull all vying for the same piece of real estate.
Yeah, we also had some contact down the field. I think Gatis was trying to overtake Luke. They came together and Gatis ended up in the wall. And when rejoining the track, he had contact with Thomas and the Toros behind. So getting a bit frisky down in the fight for 11th place, but they were all spaced out for a little bit. It does look as though the main sort of Armageddon section, as you would put it, would be for P4.
Oh, something's happened with Luke. He's put it off the track. Is it down by the tunnel? I believe it is. It is indeed. You did mention on our little track guide earlier on that that was going to be a problem corner, and it is certainly proving to be that way, as Ben is attacking Harry down the end of the DRS straight. They've banged wheels, and he gets that position. And I know Drew's not going to want to be left out of this, and he's going to be attacking the back of Ben as soon as possible. As Troy moves up to 9th place.
Oh,
or does he? Oh dear.
That's a bit rough. He thought he could just hold him off and dive it back up the inside, but realistically he wasn't getting the car slowed down there, and unfortunately he's put Troy into the wall and he has lost all his front wing. So that is frustrating for both drivers there, but yeah, there perhaps a bit of race rustiness showing for Andrea, who of course hasn't started the last 4 races.
Yeah, it's easily done, especially on this racetrack. The tarmac's not exactly as grippy as some of the other circuits. It is majority road, so of course you've still got the road cars and the oil and stuff that comes off of the everyday usage. It's a little slippery as we go back to the Armageddon section. Ben and Drew both with DRS. They're falling off the back of Harry, although he did get a corner penalty during the lap before. I think he's overcooked the old Singapore sling. And as we have Andrea and Troy both in the pits.
Yeah, both getting front wing changes after their little incident. So yeah, I think. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing how this fight between Harry and Ben develops throughout the race. They're two very committed drivers in wheel-to-wheel combat. We saw Ben was trying to pull off the audacious outside manoeuvre at turn 7. Harry knows that it's his corner and sort of got his elbows out and made sure he kept the position. So really good to see. Hopefully we'll see a bit more wheel-to-wheel action throughout the rest of the race, but it's not a track that favours it.
Oh, Drew's just given himself a penalty. The only one without a penalty in this equation, I believe, is Ben now. So Ben's in the night. Oh, and Sean's given himself a penalty. So he's handed the race back to Mitchell. We're only on lap 9 of the race, guys. Come on, sort it out. As Harry dives for the pits and takes the pit entry correctly. Keeping to the left-hand side of that white line that differentiates the pit entry from the rest of the track. It'll be interesting to see if Ben and Drew follow Harry in on the next lap. Luckily he doesn't have any front wing damage to change, and he's back out on the ultra soft tyre. Even though for me the game put super softs on, but he's back out on ultras.
His crew were holding ultras, then they put them on and it was supers, and now it's changed back to ultras. So we'll believe the game, but switching to a 2-stop probably isn't going to be good for him, as Luke just defends James in P11 there. But yes, that's I'm pretty sure it is ultra softs for Harry. That basically writes him out of the equation. This is a fairly straightforward one-stop this race, and maybe he didn't mean to go onto those tyres, who knows, but yeah, it looks like Ben and Andrew should be elevated into P4 and 5 for the rest of the race.
Yeah, pretty good scrap here between Luke and James. I've got to say, I am thoroughly impressed with the drivers that we have in this league, as we have the yellows down in Sector 1. It's Abdul who's knocked his front wing off down at turn number 4. Sorry, turn number 5, I think.
Yep.
He's just locked up and just gone straight to the wall as James gives himself a penalty. And Abdul calls it a day. We've got Sean in the pits. He's going onto the softs, and we've got Alex also in the pits. Interesting to see what tyres he goes onto. He goes onto the super soft. Ben and Drew do not pit.
Andrew's fallen a long way off the back of Ben. He was sort of within a second, and now it's gone up to 4.6. So I wonder if he has made a mistake somewhere. Because actually falling back into the collection of the Haas driver, Gerard, was having a great race up in P4.
Yeah, unfortunately for Harry, Harry's found himself in a little bit of traffic. He's already got past Thomas. He's going to try and get past Gatis. He needs to clear these guys as quickly as he can. Otherwise, Ben and Drew are going to get the overcut on him, and he does so. And now he's got about 3.5 seconds of clear air to Alex, who has made his stop. So we'll see where he slots in. Well, we'll see where Ben and Drew slot in after their pit stop. Sean in some nice clear air as well, so he's not going to be held up too much. When Mitchell pits, I'm assuming he'll be pitting this lap. In he comes.
Sean was 1.3 seconds faster than Mitchell in the middle sector, so in terms of who's going to win this race, it should be a foregone conclusion, providing Guy doesn't get in the way in the final sector here. As James has binned it at the old Singapore Sling.
I'm not quite... Where is he got? Okay, now he's knocked his front wing off as Mitchell pits, Gerard pits. I'm not quite sure what is James doing. Okay, he's rejoined as Harry sets the fastest lap of the race.
Sean easily takes the lead away from Mitchell there.
That does put James down into last. where does... Oh yeah, those two haven't pitted yet still, so that'll be interesting to see. Troy's giving himself another penalty. Like you said, and it's interesting to see the different tyre strategy. Mitchell's on the super soft tyre, Sean is on the soft, as you've got Frederick out of the race, down on the pit straight. He's knocked his left front off, so I'm assuming he's spun it off the exit curb into the barriers.
Yeah,
he's made it a long way down the pit straight.
Not very grippy on the AstroTurf on the exit curb of that final corner, and yeah, I think he's just lost the rear end and absolutely careened into the barrier.
Closest battle on track at the moment is your battle for 7th between Gatis and Thomas. We've got Ben in the pits. We've also got Drew who follows him in. Sean takes the lead. Mitchell will of course follow him into 2nd. And I'm very interested to see where Harry comes out. He's beaten the pair of them. I think James rejoining the racetrack there just behind him. And Harry's pulled a long way in front of Ben, who's attacking, who's being attacked actually by Thomas as he's come out the pits. He manages to get that place, and Drew's down in 7th place now. Like you said, he's lost a lot of time.
Yeah, I mean, Harry, I think he had 3 laps of an undercut on those ultra softs, and he's pulled out 9 seconds on Ben. That is incredible. When the tyres go off here, they do really cost you in lap time, and we're seeing that with some incredible undercuts throughout the field. So, I mean, if Harry comes in again in a few laps' time for super softs to the end of the race, those fresher tyres will really come in handy in it, and he'll probably only be around sort of a little over 10 seconds behind Ben, so that could really play into his hands.
And out goes James from the race. He's parked it on the runoff area somewhere. I think that's down at turn 6. No, it's down at the hairpin. He's obviously just had enough. We are only on lap 14 of 31. We're not even at half race distance yet. We're already almost 42 minutes into this broadcast. And it's Harry getting very sideways out turn 3. He needs to make sure he doesn't use up all of the well, he's going to have to pit anyway, so could as well use up all of the tyres now, as I believe the super soft should be able to make it from here. We've got 2 other corner cut penalties. Guy's just given himself one, but there was someone briefly before him.
Jerry, I think, went quite cut turn 16 quite heavily, but yeah. Just looking at those tyre strategies you mentioned after the pit stop, obviously everyone going onto the, almost everyone going onto the super soft tyres after the first stop, except for race leader Sean, who went for the soft tyres. But as far as I can make out, although that is a slower tyre for now, he will, I mean, he has the pace to keep Mitchell at arm's length, and it's forcing drivers like Mitchell and Alex to actually really push on those super softs to catch up, whereas realistically they've got to do a lot more saving than Sean will have to, so it's really put him in a strong position now to get the win in this race. He's just got to be careful that he doesn't get any more penalties.
Yeah, I was going to say that the battles have dropped off a little bit, but I've just seen Drew clawing all over the back, climbing all over the back of Thomas in the Toro Rosso. Red Bull versus Toro Rosso. Thomas doing a mightily fine job there in 6th place. And Drew's got to be massively frustrated that he's not further down the road, glued to the back of Ben's car. But he's now, what is that? I mean, that's 6 seconds behind Ben. It's really not going well. And he's falling further back, up to the point where he gets past Thomas, which I'm assuming will be very, very shortly out of this corner. And there you go, Thomas doesn't make it too difficult. Christian Horner's obviously got on the radio and told them to back off. I must say though, that Toro Rosso looks rather nice under the lights here at Singapore.
Yeah, it does look beautiful, has to be said, and it's being driven very well by Thomas. He's really stretched out this first stint, but he'll need to keep going if he plans to chase the Ultra Softs to the end of the race. Meanwhile, Gerard has passed Guy this time down the inside of turn 7 as he gets back in front of the Renault driver. Really good performance from Gerard here. We know he always turns up in the racing situations and never quite nails qualifying. He's already 2 places up on where he qualified, and Thomas is yet to hit. So he's up in the next 7th place for half now.
Very, very great job there by him. Everybody just sort of settling down into a rhythm at the moment, trying to see whether or not their tyres can make it. We have now just gone half race distance. Lap 16 of 31. The gap for the leads come down just a little bit, 1.8 seconds now, compared to the 2.5 it was a couple of laps ago. I was going to bring up the point that Mitchell wasn't really doing much despite having the faster tyre. That could just be down to not having enough pace, or it could just be down to the fact that, like we were saying, he's got to keep a hold of his tyres a little bit. You really don't want to use up all of the tyres coming straight out of the pits, otherwise you're left for dead pretty much towards the end of the stint.
Yeah, it's a really horrible feeling having to chase on these Pirellis. There's that sort of, would you rather be the chaser or be chased? Well, I think it's a lot more complex these days with sort of you take into account the different tyre compounds, and I think it's just sort of not a very pleasant place to be, where you have to push to have a chance of winning, but you're just having to restrict yourself so that you make it to the end of the race. And like I said, Sean will just be easing the car home. He can drive how he wants for the rest of the race, and he will get those soft tyres across the line, no problem. But Mitchell just has to rein it in as much as his instinct is telling him to absolutely push. It's a bit frustrating, I can imagine, for the Red Bull driver.
He is gaining ever so slowly, 1.7 seconds now. The gap as Thomas almost puts it in the barriers. Manages to get away scot-free as Gerard is now just inching his way closer and closer. Surely Thomas has got a pit within the next few laps. And Gerard now within DRS, is just half a second off on those fresher tyres. It's a matter of when, not if, he gets past.
Pushing him through the corner there. Should be down this straight. We'll see if Thomas fights him as hard as he did Andrew, which was not at all. Oh, puts him in the defence. He's gonna chuck it down here. Oh, I hope cut off again. Fully entitled to do this. He may well be racing these guys at the end of the race, depending on how things go. But it's unlikely. At least he's getting a bit of fun out of it, because I'm sure driving around on those ultra soft tyres will be fairly unpleasant for Thomas. So at least he can enjoy the fun here as Harry gets another corner cutting penalty. As Ben starts to reel him in.
That almost negates his undercut, as Gerard, with the fresher tyres, just drives past Thomas and locks straight up and goes off the road.
Oh no.
So Guy has now taken that position and is all over the back of Thomas, so as if Thomas thought he was going to get a little bit of respite. He's got another thing coming. Got that bright yellow. Oh dear, nearly puts in the wall in the tunnel. Guy's got to be loving this. Much better compounded tyre to be on at this stage of the race. Bit of a corner cut there, naughty.
Well, it could really unsettle the car there. He might go for a late dive,
Oh,
he goes
down
for a
inside.
Ricciardo-esque plunge, but Thomas was sensational on the brakes there, considering how warm his tyres are. Really late and got the apex absolutely spot on, so the guy will have to try a little bit harder than that if he wants the position, and there is his corner cuts being rewarded. But Gerard's not out of this, he's already caught up over a second as Troy nearly puts it in the wall on the exit of turn 5. They're all dropping like flies on that corner. It's lacking a bit of grip, it seems.
Guy shaping up for another move. And they are catching a Sauber of Andrea, who's a lap down. So that could, I mean, hopefully he doesn't interfere, but he very well might do. The guy was getting a lot of wheel spin from my onboard camera.
Yeah, getting quite a bit of, a little bit excited and...
Oh dear me! Almost driving into the back of Thomas, who's held up behind Andrea as Harry pits. Andrea's just gone into the pause menu to ghost so that these guys can get through safely. And that's Thomas into the pits. Guy up into 7th position. Gerald up to 8th, Troy up to 9th. And there's the other Renault of Harry coming out the pits. Troy with another penalty. And the gap for the lead is now just 1.2 seconds. It was 1.1 as they crossed the line. And I think Mitch just locked up and ran wide perhaps. He's dropped back a little bit. But the gap is coming down.
Yeah, he needs to act faster. He needs to just get in front of Sean as quickly as possible before the tyre situation weighs in on Sean's side. Right now, Mitchell has the faster tyres. The super soft working well, as I think Andrew yeah, Sean, as the race goes on, the softs will come into their own and the super softs will start to lose performance a lot quicker. So Mitchell needs to take advantage of this extra pace as quickly as he can, otherwise he will just watch Sean drive off into the distance.
Which he has done on so many occasions this season. He's very close now. Just 13 thousandths of a second and he'll be in DRS range, which will help him ever more. There we go, 8/10 of a second the gap now, as Harry almost puts in the wall. Sorry, that's not Harry, that's Guy, his teammate. Almost slides into the barriers in the tunnel. And Harry's disappeared. Yellow's in sector 1.
Andrew's lost it. I just happened to be on his car, just checking the race director, and I realised he'd stopped. Yeah, he's lost the rear end out of the first section of corners out of turn 3, and that means Harry gains a couple of seconds on him there, which will be vital come the end of the race.
Yep, as Gerard's just made the move for 7th position down into turn 1 with a nice Daniel Ricciardo-esque type manoeuvre. He's got 3.5 seconds between himself and Harry. Harry's on a mission, so I don't think he'll be catching him up too quickly, but we'll keep an eye on that battle because I don't think Guy is finished with him just yet. Gap to the lead is over a second again. So it looks like Mitchell's having a couple of short spurts of pace and then falling back a little bit. Let's try and get a bit more consistent if he wants to actually attack for this win. Because against Sean, that's going to be difficult. looking at the fastest laps, there's only 2 men in the 1 minute 40s. You've got Harry on a 40.3, Mitchell on a 40.9, and then everyone else in the 41s and above.
Yeah, but I mean, putting it into perspective, you've got Sean there who's on the soft tyres, and yet his fastest lap is still faster than the likes of Alex, Ben and Andrew, so he's really shown sensational pace. It's just a cut above the rest on that soft tyre. Mitchell faster, but it's just not enough, and it's fluctuating still. It went to 1.4 seconds, it's now down to 1.1, but unless Sean makes any major mistakes, I just don't see Mitchell having enough speed in him to get past. He may be able to catch up and get in DRS, but getting past will be a bit of a stretch, I think, as he falls back again to 1.5 seconds back.
Nice battle coming up. We got Troy trying to defend from Gatis. Gatis with the DRS. But of course, Gatis does like his wing angle, so it doesn't look like he's closing up too much. Even with the DRS, as Jerry pits from 12th to put on the ultra soft. He's going for the fastest lap, I'm assuming. We do have 10 laps remaining. I will just say that Troy's actually got about 6 to 9 seconds of penalties. I'm not entirely sure how much, but Gatis is obviously going to want the position on the racetrack. I don't know if Troy will fight him too much, knowing that it's pretty irrelevant if he doesn't. Gatis just so much better through the corners, showing just how much wing angle he has on the car. Basically pushing Troy along. I think I'm out in the final corner, and look at Troy pulling away. Gatis must be fuming that he just can't do anything about it at the moment. He'll have to get his Daniel Ricciardo on soon, I think.
He's so close to him through turn 5. Troy getting a bit out of shape. This has to be Gatis' opportunity to head down through the kink of 6 and into the hard braking left-hander of turn 7.
Wheels. Nice move there. Got a little feisty. I know Troy doesn't like overly aggressive attacking and defensive of a position. I don't know how happy he will be with that, but like I said, he does have penalties, and I'm not sure Gatis has, so being that defensive, there wasn't really much point to it. But that does release Gatis into 9th place. There's a gap for the lead. Has come down by another couple of tenths. Mitchell back within that second for DRS. Whether or not he'll get to use it is another story, as we start lap 23 of 31. And not because he's just bounced off the barriers.
Oh dear.
And loses 6 tenths immediately.
That is a shame. I think the tyres there getting to the end of their best life, unfortunately for Mitchell. But
and Sean nearly puts in the barriers himself.
Jesus Christ, they're all getting a bit ratchet there at the front. But like I was saying, Harry is eating into Drew's lead. He's taking about 6 to 8 tenths out of him per sector at the moment. So soon enough we'll have a fight on our hands for 5th place. Well, Harry does have 1 more penalty than Andrew at this point.
Yeah, but I believe he's the faster driver, so hopefully if he does get in front of Drew, he'll be able to pull away those 3 seconds that he needs. Either that, or in his attacking of Drew, he'll hope to push Drew into a mistake, which isn't exactly a regular occurrence, as Jerry does indeed get the fastest lap of the race on a 39.8. Which is miles quicker than anything else we've seen this afternoon, but it is, of course, just out for the fastest lap.
I think maybe we should introduce some points for fastest lap. I think if we did that in this league, we'd have the bottom half of the field coming in 3 laps to go and bolting on the ultra soft.
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much have that anyway.
I mean, yeah, it's a good point.
I think it will get a bit more ridiculous if we do. So I'm actually going to put that in as a suggestion for next season. Points for fastest lap. I mean, it can't be any more ridiculous than F1 proposing points for the entire field.
Yeah,
that I saw earlier on in the week. As Troy gives himself another penalty.
It's not been a good afternoon for him. Got it all wrong in qualifying, and as it's so easy to do in this league, once you get it wrong in qualifying, it's gone horribly wrong in the race as well. Scoring a point there by the looks of it. But yeah, it's a sinking feeling looking at those gaps. Thankfully we have had fairly decent action up until now, but the last 7 laps or so we need something pretty major to happen for anything to get us excited. I mean, Harry's gap to Andrew has just sort of stagnated a little bit. He's not really catching him. Hopefully that's just due to mistakes and he's not burned through the tyres already, although you can never really be sure with Harry.
Yeah, I think we should be lucky that he's not put it in the wall yet, to be perfectly honest.
He's done very well considering it is a street circuit. Normally finds the barriers sooner or later.
Yeah. Having said that, we've still got 6 laps of this race remaining, so I hope I haven't just cursed him with that. But we shall see. Lead gap. Sean coming back down again.
Yeah, Sean keeps teasing us with these little mistakes and then extending the gap again. He's just lost half a second somewhere in that first sector, but I'm sure that'll ease open again.
And it is doing exactly that.
Driving it like he's on a quali lap. He was sideways going into there. I think it's time to bring up the fantasy game.
I'm not going to do that.
You're going to hold off some more?
What I am going to bring up is yeah, any more developments on big news! Let's just come back to this. Sean has given himself another penalty that has handed Mitchell the win. Well, the lead. Wow. As he's only 1.8 seconds back. Sean now has to try and stretch the the gap to 3 seconds. So he's got to use up all that extra fuel. If of course he still has it, that is.
Oh, Ben has had an incident. He's coming into the pits with half a front wing, so he's going to go for fastest lap. It should only drop him to sort of 7th place, maybe 8th, but that's big for him. He was running well in P4. I just noticed he had dropped some time. He's made a mistake there. So yeah, 6 qualifying laps now for Sean, which could open the door for some mistakes and perhaps another penalty. We've got Harry closing in on Andrew, which is now a fight for P4, as Gerard moves into P6 as his stellar race continues. Ben actually out in P10 after that front wing change, so that is a shame. That's cost him dearly in terms of points there.
Yeah, let's just have a look at Gerard's best finish so far. His best finish is a 4th, and his favourite position is 6th actually. He's got 3 of them so far, and if he was to finish now, he would be on 666. Spa, Italy and Singapore, he'd be on 3 6th places, which will probably summon some kind of demon. And,
I'm sure it will.
And depending on how Ben closes up to Troy come the end of this race, that might be Troy and the stewards. That's the demon.
Oh, yes. Well, I mean, I'd love to see a graph comparing Gerard's qualifying performance to his race performances, because the amount of positions he gains in a race, it's not a race if he's gained less than 5 places, which he hasn't done yet. To be fair, I think he started 10th, so he comes alive in race situations. His consistency is fantastic, and I think that's all you need when you have people like Ben and Harry making fairly regular mistakes. If you are consistent and driving in the midfield, then just keeping out of trouble will bring you points as the season goes on.
Gap between Drew and Harry is just 0.7 of a second. I'm guessing Drew might have made a mistake into turn 1, because it was more than that. And we are Sean is about half a second away from taking the win back off of Mitchell. So looks like he's stretching that gap with ease, as we have yellow flags somewhere.
Yeah, Luke, I think collapsed the barrier on the exit of turn 14, and the little curb is put him in
back down the
wall.
inside. Sorry to cut across here, but Ben's just thrown it down the inside of Troy in the corner before the sling.
He closed that 3 seconds very
7.
quickly.
Yeah. And he's away as well. He's already gained 1.4 seconds. So Troy's obviously ruined those set tyres. As Luke pits. So he's going for fastest lap as well. We don't actually get points for this, so not sure why everybody's just decided to throw on a set of Ultrasofts come the end of the race.
Well, Luke didn't have a front wing after his crash at turn 14, so that'll be the reason for that pit stop, as Harry is right on the back of Andrew now, and the lead gap is about to bridge 3 seconds, so Sean might just have saved himself. But attacking the American is Harry down in towards turn 7.
No, Harry just being a bit more sensible there. That's an interesting comment to make. If Woody is 20 seconds behind, then why is he 4th? Not quite sure what you mean by that. That's to the car ahead, not to the leader. As Harry is now starting to push Drew around this racetrack. And there we go, the gap's over 3 seconds. It was briefly, but Sean's surely going to want to put a little bit more distance on that, just in case he gives himself another penalty, which, with this being Sean, is perfectly likely.
Definitely could happen. In other news, further down the field, Troy did put it in the wall on the exit turn 7, so he's running around with some front wing damage now, but I don't think Sean has had a single warning since his last penalty, whereas Mitchell is 1 corner cut away from getting another 3 seconds under on, so it looks as though Sean has just about rescued it. That gap
Harry, wide. Oh, Harry, please. In all kinds of sideways. He's still only 7/10 off, so he's not lost too much time as Ben sets the fastest lap of the race.
Great to see the Fappy sports driver covered in purple lap times.
I was wondering where you were going with that sentence.
Yeah.
Troy pits, so he's going to try and beat that, I think.
Oh, Mitchell's fallen way off now. He's dropped to second.
Yeah, I think he's given up. Either he's given up or his tyres have. We do of course have 1.5 laps remaining. As Harry still relentlessly, as Ben just past Gatis down in the sling. Back to Harry. How is Drew holding on to this place?
Pushing him through the corners.
Oh,
Don't try it there.
Oh dear. I was wondering whether or not to get under my desk to watch that.
Drew just driving consistently. Harry knows he has to get ahead and then gap him by 3 seconds. And oh my word, keep it in a straight line, son.
This is not going to happen with just 1 lap remaining.
Well, unless he pulls off block pass of the century and takes a bit of wing with him.
I was going to say, what, throws Drew off the road?
That's not, you can't do anyone around the outside left, surely.
Oh, what a move if he pulls this off. Oh, I've done it, well, what a move.
Just needs to brake check Andrew now. Drop some front wing all over the floor and bolt. Oh no, he's just bolting. Okay, that's probably the better way of doing it.
He's bolting, but is he going to have enough time to bolt enough? I guess we will find out.
Oh, that was a great move. It's a very difficult, the nature of that corner. It's fairly short apex, very difficult to do anyone around the outside of there because the car on the inside just has so much control over the line. But Andrew, very fair. Will always give you a fair race, and Harry pulled off the move to perfection. Some great racing to see there, but it might all just be in vain if you can't bridge the gap of 3 seconds before the end of the race.
Yeah, we've also got Ben closing up to Guy for 7th place. We've got yellow flag somewhere which briefly disappeared. Harry's gapped Drew 1.1 seconds. He's now got a lap in which to find the other 1.9 seconds as Ben gives himself a penalty. As he's just 3/10, make it 1/10 behind Guy as they cross the line to start their final lap. He's having a look down the inside into turn 1, and it's a pretty clinical move even with the lockup. As Troy with another penalty. Down there in 11th position. Where's Sean? Sean's just coming under the tunnel now. Oh, very nearly knocks his right rear off.
That could have been game over.
The hell was that?
You can't do it like that. I think he's just playing around now, kicking the rear end out.
And there we go. Sean wins the Singapore Grand Prix and causes Mercedes some damage costs. Mitchell crosses the line to take 2nd. And someone that we haven't actually spoken about, I think, pretty much for this entire Grand Prix is Alex, and he's about to take the podium. Fantastic drive for him.
Probably had the most boring race of his life there. I don't think he's made a single on-track overtake, but yeah, he'll be very happy with the podium.
He will indeed. I mean, his last start was way back in Austria. So it's good to see him do that. As Harry, please. Drew gets that position back again, obviously with the penalties. Harry only gapping in 1.2 seconds. Here comes Gerard to complete a quite impressive 6th place finish. Ben crosses the line in 7th. Guy finishes the race in 8th. There's Gatis crossing the line in 9th. Make that 8th. With Guy's penalties, and Thomas just coming through the final sequence of corners to round out your point scorers and the race, as Troy, Jerry, Luke and Joy, I've already taken the flag. And there you go. You can tell Sean was having fun on that last lap because the gap went from over 5 seconds to just 2.5. When Mitchell crossed the line.
I think that's with the penalty.
That is with the penalty. I do apologise. There you go, that is race number 14 on the books. I wonder how quickly it will be before Sean can wrap this title up. He'll be over 90 points in front of Mitchell come the end of this race. With 150, I believe, left for grabs.
Yep, he's definitely closing in on it. It's been a truly dominant season from Sean. And really sensational race pace there at the end to gap Mitchell the way he did. Obviously the soft tyres really working for him in the end. Brilliant strategy call.
Yeah, so there we have it. Sean takes the victory. Mitchell in second, Alex in third, Drew in fourth, Harry in fifth, Gerard in sixth, Ben in seventh, Gatis in eighth, Guy in ninth, and Thomas in 10th. With that performance, I think Drew's going to climb up a couple of places in the championship. He's certainly going to pass. Actually, maybe not. He's going to be equal on points. Yeah, he's going to be equal on points with Troy. So he doesn't quite beat him. Although, actually, no, he will. He's got 3 podiums to Troy's 1. So, yeah, he will indeed take that 5th place in the championship. So, good for him. I think you've already mentioned your driver of the day, but I shall just give you the chance to say it officially.
Oh. I don't know who
Or have I just put you on the spot?
Well, I mean, there's a number of candidates. Obviously, Sean, the major one. Gerard had a great race. I think Andrew had a decent race as well, but for one mistake. But yeah, I'd probably have to give it to Sean. Just
bias.
Did everything. Yeah, well, you know, he's a great asset to the FAP Esports team, and to bring home victory was, you know, it was great to see. But yeah, strategy call was spot on, and he just did enough to win. Very professional performance from the Mercedes driver in the end. So yeah, I'll give my driver there to Sean.
And I'm going to give it to Alex, who's only made two previous appearances in this championship. A 5th place in Malaysia and a 2nd place in Austria, and now he's got a 3rd place to add to that here in Singapore. So I think he might be hoping that in his next arrival that he will round out his podium streak with a win. But with Sean and Mitchell on the track, not really sure if he's going to be able to do that. Only 2 other men have won so far this season. That's Gatis in Baku and Kaz in Australia. Of course, Kaz long since retired. And Gatis, they're in 3rd place in the championship. Next round of the championship, of course, next week. The World Cup has left it, but we will be joining it. It is, of course, the Russian Grand Prix. So do join us for that. Hopefully we won't all come out of that looking green and nuclear, or getting into any sort of fights.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Had to make it political.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's a very interesting, well, I'd say a very interesting track. It's a very interesting track to see just how much of the corner you can cut without a penalty.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll see just how much Sean has refined that over the past 2 seasons.
Yeah, with with him. He's like you said, he's had a lot of practice. Right, that wraps things up. I'd like to thank you all for watching. See you for the Russian Grand Prix next week. From myself, Jamie Mayers, Michael Fleming, and Mikey Wolford, who will hopefully be joining us next week. Have a great end to your night. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next week for the Russian Grand Prix.